Now we're coming to a really, really exciting part. I can't wait. This next gentleman that we're going to introduce to you, I met him and was blown away by what he and his company were doing. And so we decided to bring it into the Kannaway fold and make it part of what we are doing. It's making cannabis personal. You see, I think this is the next step in science and nutrition. It is making science, your nutrition, your food, your supplements, all personal to you. And so Kannaway is the first cannabis company to be doing this, along with our partners called Endocanna Health. You are unique. And so you should be taking products that are unique for you. Even though 99% of your DNA is identical to everyone else, it's that 0.1% that makes you and your potential experience with cannabis personal. We searched for the right partner to go down this project with. Personalized cannabis, I think it's something that is a massive opportunity for all of us. This next gentleman has been at it for a long time. His name is Len May. Okay, he's the CEO of a company called Endocanna Health. And we've partnered with them. And our partnership's actually a pretty deep one. We're launching a whole bunch of new products today, and we're launching a brand new way how you can identify actually what's unique to your endocannabinoid system, and then have products that are specifically formulated for you based on your system. Isn't that pretty cool? So I'm gonna have Len come up, and he's going to describe what they've been up to, and then I'm going to come back up and describe how we're going to bring it all together inside of Kannaway. So everybody on your feet for the CEO of Endocanna Health, Len May.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. What an amazing job Blake did, right? Just time to lower your expectations after that. So, how's everybody doing today?
All right.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm doing all right. I never take these opportunities for granted. I've been in the cannabis space for over 20 years, and every single time I have an opportunity to speak, it just amazes me when I wake up in the morning, because I know a lot of people that went to jail for this amazing healing plant, harassed, you name it. And it's interesting because CBD really became a victim of this 1937 Marijuana Tax Act, because when cannabis became illegal, they didn't even know CBD existed. So it's really, really interesting that we're here and we came such a long way. We're still a long way to go. So first, I want to thank the organizer. I want to thank Kannaway Medical Marijuana Inc. for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share. And second, I want to thank each and every one of you Saturday morning for coming out here and learning about cannabis, about this amazing plant, and then taking that information and sharing it with other people so we can finally end prohibition and get rid of the stigma. So give yourselves a hand. Thank you so much for coming out. So, as I traveled throughout the world, and I was just in Colombia, Canada, all over the world, there's a really common thread. Like, you have this relationship with people with cannabis. And the reason why, not only socially, it's something that you can talk to people about, it builds commonality, but it's kind of because we have cannabis inside of us in a certain way. So we have these receptors, and Blake kind of touched on this, so I'll dig a little bit deeper, that our body naturally produces endogenous endocannabinoids. So these are actual cannabinoids our body produces, and we are built to have receptors for those. So there's a reason why. So I'm going to go into this a little bit in more detail. We have this endocannabinoid system. So think about it. Prior to 1992, your healthcare professional was treating you without the knowledge of this primary regulatory system. They didn't even know this existed. And this system does so many different things. regulates your body temperature, metabolic function, waste, also some of your sexual organs, a lot of different things. And this system helps maintain balance. And if you think about the history of this plant, you know, when for thousands of years, when this plant grew everywhere, animals would eat it, it would be part of our food supply naturally. And because of the prohibition and the outlaw of this amazing plant, we're no longer getting those phytocannabinoids in the plant. So, and you'll learn through this presentation that we all have a different genetic predisposition. So we may have different levels of these endogenous endocannabinoids. And because our food supply hasn't really produced this naturally, then we have to try to get these phytocannabinoids from the plant ourselves through, you know, these formulations of these other products that Kannaway happens to produce. So I want to talk about a couple of these. The first one's called anandamide. So anandamide is an endogenous endocannabinoid that our body produces. The word anand in Sanskrit means bliss. So this is our bliss hormone. And what it does is THC, and I'll talk a little bit about THC as well, not just CBD, and I'll explain why. THC actually attaches CB1 receptor and mimics the way anandamide works in our brain. So mood, a lot of different things I'll go into in a little bit. The second endogenous endocannabinoid that was discovered is it's much easier for me to say 2-AG. So 2-AG is another endogenous endocannabinoid that was discovered, and what it does, it has an affinity for both CB1 and CB2 receptors, but it does have a stronger affinity for the CB2 receptor. And when somebody consumes CBD, it releases enzymes that help to stabilize your immune and digestive system. And I'll put all these together in a minute. So this is how the endocannabinoid system or endogenous endocannabinoid system works. So if you think about it in a really simple way, CB1 has a lot to do with your central nervous system in your brain. So motor skills, thinking, mood, appetite, etc. CB2 is your gut health, your immune and digestive systems. So having a balance in both gets you to homeostasis. There are other phytocannabinoids, and I'm going to go into it, but I'm going to give you an explanation of how this deficiency, and Blake mentioned it in his presentation, how this actually works. So if we're all producing our own endogenous levels, our own levels of endogenous endocannabinoids, what happens is if we have a deficiency in our own naturally producing endogenous endocannabinoids, our body communicates that to us. And it usually communicates that to us in a form of inflammation. That inflammation sends a signal of pain or discomfort through our central nervous system to our brain, and our brain tries to release all kinds of different chemicals, including endocannabinoids, to try to address that pain. When we have our own deficiency, and when we find our own specific formulation of THC, CBD, and other phytocannabinoids, when that pain, that inflammation then subsides, that pain or discomfort goes away, and we've gotten back to homeostasis and balance. And that's what we want to do. So trying to figure out what is the right ratio for each individual, that's the key. There's a lot of kind of guesswork. What do I need? How much I need? And that's kind of what we're looking to resolve. So I want to give everybody an overview. This says there's over 80 different cannabinoids. So I was just in an event in Pasadena, California, and there was a scientist from Israel that was talking, and he said in his university, they discovered over 500 different components in this plant. So think about it this way. Over 500 different components in the plant. We all have our unique DNA. So to take those 500 and to match them uniquely with ourselves, that's not easy to do, right? So using deep learning, artificial intelligence, a lot of these different things, we can start honing in much closer to a personalized formulation for each and every one of us. So we talked about cannabinoids, so THC, CBD, and Blake mentioned CBG. So I just want to explain how cannabinoids work. The cannabinoids are really the genetics of the plant themselves. So every cannabinoid starts with a CBGA, that acid molecule. And then there's an oxidation process that converts that to THCA, CBDA, and some of the other cannabinoids. And as Blake was mentioning, when you heat these molecules at a certain temperature, the acid molecule drops off, and that's when you build the affinity for the receptor. That's when the receptor binding happens. So THCA converts to delta-9, tetrahydrocannabinol, which is THC, and it binds to the CB1 receptor, and the same thing with CBDA, the acid molecule drops off. So we're just discovering all these other different cannabinoids that work together with the phytocannabinoids that work together in synchronicity, and that is extremely important. But there's also a really, really important secret sauce. And this is, they're called terpenes. And I'm going to explain this because this is extremely important, and this is a huge differentiator. And when Blake was talking about entourage and full spectrum, and we can use all these terms, but I want everybody to understand how important terpenes are. So terpenes are the glandular secretions that the plant produces. In an easy way to understand it, it's essential oil. Every single plant produces essential oil. It so happens that in cannabis, it produces essential oil that works together with the cannabinoids to create an effect. So these terpenes have, anybody ever hear of indica and sativa? Okay. Well, there's no such thing really as indica and sativa. So there used to be thousands of years ago, and I'll explain what the difference is. So the plant, they originated in Southeast Asia, originally in a much harsher climate. These plants released they created the terpenes to try to deter the predators that were native to that specific region. So in a harsher climate, the smell of that plant was very skunky and diesely kind of smell. So that plant actually is associated, that smell is associated with a terpene called myrcene. And myrcene is more of a sedative. So that's where you talk about indica. So it's indica dominant because it's prevalent in that terpene called myrcene, which actually makes you drowsy, makes you sleepy, and is a sedative. So the other type of plants that grew, grew in a much more humid, warmer climate, so native to South Africa, the Caribbean, Hawaii. If you look at that plant originally, it looked different. It stretched more to the sun, it had a different leaf base, and the smelled a little more fruitier. And if you think about that, it's associated with a terpene called limonene. And limonene gives you a boost, gives you energy. So that is the sativa dominant. So when you look at the cannabinoids, and there's a lot of different terpenes, we have over 140 that we've discovered in the plant so far, and we keep discovering more. I was just in the lab. It's interesting to see on a mass spectrometer, we see identified terpenes, identified cannabinoids, but there's some that we're picking up that we don't know what they are. So that's the difference between having an isolated product and having a product that has all these different molecules in it, because some of them, we don't know what they are yet. We haven't identified them, but we know that removing them doesn't work as well. It's really important to know. So, does this look familiar to anybody? Anybody see anything kind of they can point out? This is actually my desktop. And the reason why I wanted to share this with everybody is you see all the tabs open everywhere, and there's date stamps, so it's like a day or two ago. I have ADD, and as you can see clearly, it's my superpower though. I know how to use that effectively because I can multitask effectively. But to give you guys a little bit of background, this is where I started using cannabis as my own medicine. I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. So when I was a kid, I had the ADD, kind of makes you drift. So I would sit in class, I didn't have the hyperactive stuff, but all these thoughts would come in my head. The same way as those tabs, all these tabs. And they diagnosed me when I was in my early teens, and they put me on all kinds of medicine. And all of them really sucked. It made me feel awful. Some of them worked, but still made me numb. So I discovered, accidentally, cannabis. My parents weren't really happy with that, so I kept getting caught and consuming cannabis. And my parents ended up asking me to leave. And they asked me to leave, not in a very polite way. They actually called the cops on me and tried to have me arrested. The irony of this story is that my parents actually consume cannabis formulations that I helped develop now for their, conditions and symptomatic conditions. So it came full circle, right? So I just wanted to kind of share this journey really quickly because I am a patient as well. I've consumed it all my life, and this is my go-to medicine. I consume no other medication. So as an early adopter, and because I went through that, I became an activist. It became my passion because I wanted to share what was happening to me with other people. And I became the president of the Cannabis Action Network. So I held a rally, the first one ever. I'm from Philadelphia originally, at Independence Hall in Philly, where the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and you guys probably know, all written on hemp paper. That's all there. And I had a person who was my keynote speaker. Her name was Elvie Masika, and she's one of the first people to get federally prescribed cannabis under a program that no longer exists. The irony of that, it's illegal, but the federal government is cultivating and providing this medicine to people. It's really interesting. So when she lit up her federally prescribed USDA in a tin cigarette, so they called it, on federal property, I'm like, man, it's close. It took about 20 or so years for Pennsylvania legalized, so it took a little bit of time, but we're there. So, as I said, my mission is always to try to help people with this amazing plant. So when I moved to California about 12 years ago, I got into the dispensary space. I thought that dispensaries, we can create medicine and help people to be able to get what's needed for them. The thing that I learned from that is that the actual plant itself has inconsistencies. So when you're recommending or suggesting something to somebody, there are some inconsistencies due to genetic drift, as I learned further on in my career. So I started formulating and trying to create more consistent formulations. And in doing so, I started really learning about plant genetics. So I worked with this company called Medicinal Genomics, and my job was to travel around the country and in Canada. And what I would do is I would take a piece of the plant, I would bring it to my lab, I would extract the DNA, purify the DNA, and send it to Boston to a sequencer. And what we did was we started the first, we call it cultivar or chemovar library, that's the name of a strain, library. So we could genetically associate. So if anybody ever heard of different strains like Sour Diesel or Blue Dream, all these things, they're just names. They mean nothing, because there's an actual formulation, there's a ratio of cannabis and terpenes that are specific to that plant. And when you genetically sequence them, so if I took 10 samples and I look at 10 of them, maybe 5 of them are Blue Dream, 2 of them are related to Blue Dream, and the other 3 are not even close. So being able to be consistent was the key. And then I started learning about human genetics, and that became my passion. With my type of ADD, I can either multitask and be all over the place, or when something stimulates me, I hyper-focus. And it became an obsession to figure out a way how to merge the human genetic side, because we started seeing kids with epilepsy. Actually, we held a conference in Harvard Medical School with a bunch of different physicians from around the world that were really treating kids illegally at the time, taking a lot of risks with CBD and trying to help kids with epilepsy. But there was a certain percentage of kids, their seizures started coming back. And when we looked at their genetic expression, they all had some genetic mutations in common, which was Dravet syndrome, which is a form of epilepsy that's specific to those kids. So I'm like, there's got to be other genetic mutations. There's going to be other genes that give you a specification. And that's when we launched Endocanna Health. And the first year and a half, we looked at every single gene that has a direct or indirect association with your endocannabinoid system. Then we had to find research. So everything that we talk about has peer-reviewed essays and is completely transparent. When we mention a gene or mention something that is related to that, there's always a study associated with that. So we also build this on an AI learning platform. Because this is so rapidly evolving, new studies come on board, we put that into the AI deep learning, the new study is then set up in your report, and you have lifelong updates. So I want to talk about the relation between DNA and your endocannabinoid system. So stress. So the reason why I want to talk about stress is my mom always told me stress is related to every single disease that you can possibly have. Everything's related to stress. And, you know, I was right. But my curious mind is always, well, how? How is that? It's true, but how? So one of the things that we started looking at is these genes that have a direct association with a stress response. So one of the genes is called Fa. So Fa produces an enzyme that breaks down anandamide. And we all know anandamide is our bliss hormone, right? So when we are in a stressful act, somebody cuts us off in traffic, with all these things that are pumped into our bloodstream, you know, adrenaline, dopamine, cortisol, which our immune system really hates, norepinephrine, etc. So when our body realizes, our mind realizes that, you know, there's no lion chasing us, we can calm down, the body releases an anandamide to try to stabilize all that stress response because it's a false alarm. Well, we all have different levels, baseline levels of anandamide. And Fa, when the enzyme, the genotype on Fa can predict how much anandamide we have. So some people that produce more Fa produce less anandamide and actually don't do well for prolonged stress responses. And if you look at the research, what happens is, because cortisol is constantly pumping into your bloodstream, and because you have these stress responses that are now leveled off by anandamide, that cortisol raises your pH level, you become more acidic. Your immune system does what's called an overactive immune response, attacks that area, specifically in the joints, and walk around inflamed. So luckily, we have CBD and other terpenes that can actually reduce that inflammation and get us back to homeostasis and balance. So I want to talk about Grandma Mary really quick, and I'm really low on time, so I'll try to squeeze through this. But this is an example, and I know this is more or less THC related, but I'll do this quickly anyway. So Grandma Mary, true story, she's ate a cannabis brownie 50 or 60 years ago at a party and had an awful experience. And swore off the devil's lettuce. I'm never gonna try this again. It's awful, it's the worst. Unfortunately, Grandma got diagnosed with cancer. She lives in an assisted living facility, and she was watching CNN and saw Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay Gupta, of course, who's not gonna believe Dr. Sanjay Gupta, TV doctor, talking about cannabis to help with the symptoms of chemo and some of the other things she was going through. So she decided she was going to give it another shot. She went to a dispensary and told the person there her story. He recommended a chocolate, said, "Grandma, don't take too much, take it easy," which is probably the right advice. So Grandma went, took a little piece of chocolate, and had an awful experience. She was sweating, she was hallucinating, it was awful. And the next day, not only did she say, "This is snake oil, I don't believe this," but she also told everybody else in her assisted living facility that, "Do not take this, it's gonna make you sick." Well, we have genes, they're called cytochrome P450 markers. They're responsible for our metabolism. So if Grandma knew that she was an ultra poor metabolizer through her digestive system, she would consume her formulation sublingually under her tongue, buccally, or however else, bypass her first pass, and would have a great experience. So that's exactly what Grandma Mary did. So what if there was a test that can predict this in advance? Well, guess what, guys? There is a test, and Blake announced it. We have this amazing partnership, and this test, this Kannaway DNA test, this EndoDNA test, it's an amazing thing because now you can learn what's your ideal ratio. You can understand the right method of consumption based on specifically your metabolic function. Know which cannabinoids and terpenes work best for you. The goal is not only to find your optimal product, optimal ratio, it's to avoid adverse reactions. Because the more people that have an adverse reaction, that's the stigma. That comes back and say, no, that's not what I need. So getting an optimal ratio makes a lot of sense. And identifying specific products And we have specific products that we built together with Kannaway that are endo-aligned. So how does it work? Really simple. You get the kit, you register. And I want to mention how important registration is. The security is really key. Everybody, 23andMe, some of the data goes to Big Pharma, etc. We care about data, not Len May's personal data. Having thousands of people with similar genotypes that took this formulation and it worked, that's what we care about. So the information is anonymized. If you don't register, we won't know whose DNA it is. So register, swab. So when I took my 23andMe, it took me 20 minutes to spit in a tube. I'm not a big fan of that, and it's not fun. So you swab with a big Q-tip, put it back in the box, ship it over to our lab, and within several weeks, you will get an email to log into your personalized portal, and you will get a report. So what will the report show you? It'll show you your genotype as it relates to all kinds of different symptomatic conditions that you consume cannabis for. Stress, some information, etc. And secure and personalized. And you can take action today, because not only will it tell you what is your endocompatibility, but also show you specific products that we built together over 10 years. By the way, this is we have 3 patents on the technology here. We have patents pending on the formulations that we built together with this amazing team at Kannaway. You guys now have the power to have these endo-line products that you can sell. So it's an amazing thing. You know what works best for you. You optimize your product use, you're secure, and you feel empowered. And that's the overall goal, is to have something unique that nobody else has, and to differentiate yourself from everybody else. So I just want to say that you guys have the power in your hands. The more you communicate, the more you talk to people about what cannabis CBD can do for you, we'll get to remove the stigma and have an amazing experience. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
All right, so with Len here, we're totally taking this to the next level. All right, so here's how this works. There's going to be, to start out, there's going to be 2 different options, okay? Coming probably in about a month or 2, we're going to have a 3rd option. But here's how this works. In our enroller packs, starting at junior enroller pack and above, everybody will get a kit in that enroller pack. Why? Because we want people to get their personalized cannabis experience in the package. So if you're already a brand ambassador and you want to find out about your endocannabinoid systems and your markers and all that kind of cool stuff, you can purchase the kit for $59. Then you have to pay for the testing. Okay, so the all-in price here, I think, is $159, all right? If you prepay for the test kit and the results in the lab work, you can purchase it for $139. And of course, they're coming complimentary in our executive packages, junior and above.
Sure.
So I'm gonna have Len open this and show everybody what this DNA kit actually looks like. So inside it are the basic instructions for how to use the kit, okay? There's a little swab collector inside of there as well. You're gonna use that. We have all the packaging right here in the box to send it back to Endocanna Health so they can run the analysis. And then in about 4 weeks, you'll be able to log in to our Kannaway results page, where you're going to be able to see your results online with all of your genetic markers, and it will be sharing with you the recommended products based on your genotypes.
I feel like bad and white. Yeah, but this, what Blake was saying, this is really powerful too, because there's over 30 million people that took some sort of genetic test already. So by you taking the raw data that already belongs to you, and then being able to upload it, you'll get instantaneous results.
So that one that he just talked about is the one that's coming in probably 30 or 45 days, okay? If you've taken already an Ancestry or 23andMe test, you'll be able to just port your results right over, and they'll do the endocannabinoid analysis based on those results. So, starting today, you can buy this package in the store during the break. You can start to learn about your own endocannabinoid system, what's happening inside your own body, and which terpenes you should be taking to supplement your specific endogenous cannabinoid system. We're actually launching now 3 new products that were designed along with this program, which we're really excited about. So we're bridging the gap between your personal DNA and cannabis. Let's see here. Here's what they look like. So, this is our original Kannaway green oil. The green oil all by itself was not available to you before. This is the green oil, and it's mixed with the terpenes that best go with the green oil. When you do your personalized cannabis report, it is going to give you a recommendation on which of our products you should be taking. This is one of them that's specifically formulated. So you don't have to wait for your results. You can actually get these products today. They're in the store, but this is the green oil, and the terpenes that have been added to this one are myrcene, linalool, terpinolene,
Yeah.
chamomile, and sandalwood. So amazing product here. The blue oil, okay, this is the first time Kannaway is ever getting its own specific blue oil. Again, for sale today as well. It has the addition of pinene, linalool, beta-carotene, borneol, geranium, and mint.
Okay.
And finally, the gold oil is formulated with beta-carotene, myrcene, humulene, lavender, sandalwood, and mint. So again, based on these products were based on certain genotypes